Very good morning. I welcome you all to this video of my channel, The Krishna's 10 Minutes. Okay. So in our previous videos, we have been talking about the Python and particularly the different variables and the function definition, how a function can be defined and how the function can be called and how the function can be passed or returned from one function to another function, the types of arguments and the types of variables, everything we have seen. So that is applicable in Python. So in this video, we are going to see some the concepts. Before we go to the concepts, we'll see the different styles of programming or the programming style that can be followed for years. So totally we have different types of programming. The one is the first one, the functional programming, and second, the procedure-oriented programming, and the object-oriented programming. So it has been there in the industry for many years. Say like for procedure-oriented programming, we have been following for many years, and still now we practice it. So what is that procedure-oriented programming? In the sense, some set of procedure has to be followed. Say like I'm assigning a project to a guy. I make that project into different modules, the small chunks, the module 1, module 2 and module 3. Only if the person who was involved in that module 1, only if they completes, then the second module can be started. In the sense, the output of the module 1 can be given as an input to the module 2, and the output of module 2 can be assigned to the input of the module 3. Such a way there is a dependency between these modules, and for this case, for this reason, we have to maintain a procedure. What is the procedure? The module 1 has to be completed first, and then module 2 and module 3, then finally the product release. So this is what we call as the procedure oriented programming. And coming to the functional programming. So what is that functional programming? You know what? We'll define everything in a function. Say like we want to do something. So what we will do is we'll define a function as and when required. That function can be called and that function will do certain things without manipulating my main function. So that is what the special feature that is available in Python. That is what we call as the decorators, because already we have defined a function, or already we'll have some function, but I don't want that function to execute as such. I want to make some modifications, I want to make some manipulations to that function, but in fact that modifications cannot be done directly to the main function. In that case, we go for decorators. I will have an inner function, and that inner function I will define how I want that main function to behave. And this is what the main flexibility and the main feature that is available in Python, and that is what we call as a functional programming. And this is the second way of programming style. And third one is the object oriented programming. So in this object oriented programming, what is mean by object? In the sense everything will be considered as an object. As we are talking about the Python, so this Python supports all these three. It is applicable for procedure oriented programming and functional programming and the object oriented programming. And here in this video, we are going to see about some concepts, the important concepts of object oriented programming. So how the object oriented programming concept can be applied in Python. So that is what we are going to see. So before we go, we need to know some preliminary terminologies. The different terminologies that we have in OOPS concept are encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, class, objects. So these are all some the tricky keywords or tricky terminologies that we use in OOPS concepts. So we'll see one by one in the forthcoming videos. So as an introductory part, we'll have some discussion about a clarification about the class and objects. So for example, as like a Linux, in Linux everything will be considered as an object. Similarly, in Python everything will be considered as a object. So say like what is an object? Say this pen, I have a pen here, so this pen is an object. So I have a mobile, so that mobile is also an object. I have a car, so that car is also an object. So everything is an object. Typically when typically talking in this real world corporate industries, everything will be considered as an object. Say like every individual, say I want to run a company. Okay, so for my company, or I want to do some project with you guys as a student, as a tutor, I want to do some projects with the students. So with the students, every student will be considered as an object. As I segregate them into different teams, and each team will be assigned some jobs. So what they are assigned to do, and what they are ought to do, and when they are supposed to be completed. So these things have to be completed by the objects. So these are all the instructions given to every object. So there must be some instruction, that is the input. So with that input, that object will perform something and give me the output. So this is what I can make you to understand very clear what object means. Everything will be considered as an object. Okay, fine. Say for example, here I have a pen here. So what is the make of this pen is something, it's named as a Rorito Fast Dry. Okay, so it is a maker of that, the make of this company is Rorito. Okay, fine. This object, this is not the only object which I have. The same product may be available with some other student or some other person, everyone. It is not the only one object which I have. This is not the only object that the manufacturer they produces. So here this manufacturer is the class, and this is the only one object, or otherwise we call, technically speaking, we call this as an instance. This is the one instance from the manufacturer. Say like for more clarity, what I can tell you is say you have any car. Okay, I'm having some car, maybe a Swift Desire or anything. Swift is the object. So that is not the only one car which runs over the country. We have many different, the millions and trillions of objects we have. And who is the manufacturer? And Maruti is the manufacturer. So they used to manufacture, they will have a design. So how the Swift car should look like, and how the Swift Desire should look like. So they will have some design. So that design will be given by the Maruti. Okay, and that Maruti car, I mean the Swift, will be produced in different plans. Yeah, say for example, okay, let's go for international brands for more clarity, like Honda and Toyota. So I own a Civic. Okay, that Civic is not produced in India. Okay, or Civic or BMW or Mercedes Benz or McLaren or anything. Okay, the imported cars. That is the reason why we call those cars are imported from from different countries, because they are not manufactured here, but they are designed by Honda. Okay, so it is being produced by different countries. They have been assembled in India. For that reason, we call this as an assembled India, but it is designed by Honda. So that is the ownership that every company has. That is here the class is the Honda. The manufacturer is what we call as a class, and yet though they will have some design structures. If they want to design a new car, they will have a design how that car should look like, and what is the requirements that it is going to satisfy. Everything will be designed by the company, and with this design requirements, the car will be assembled or produced in different locations of the country. Okay, so that is how the class and objects we define as. So here the cars are the different objects or instances of a class, and the manufacturer is the class. So that is what we call in programming as class and objects. A class may define what object is and what should be the attribute of that object and what are the behavior of that object. Everything will be defined in the class. The behavior and attitude, and behavior is what we call as a method in programming languages. So this is the classification, and there you should have a proper clarification with the class, object and the methods. And through methods we can define the objects, and the behavioral attributes of that objects can also be defined with the methods, and that methods has to be defined within the class. And before that, a class should be defined, a class should be created. So this is the hierarchy. First the class should be created, then a method, then the object can be created. So these three things should be very, very clear. These three things are very, very important as a part of the concept of the OOPS, object-oriented programming concepts. Okay, fine. So I think this introduction is more than enough for you to have a clarity towards a class, object and the OOPS concepts. Okay, fine. In the next video, we'll see how the class can be created, and the followingly the method creation and object creation. Thank you. Welcome you all for the second series of the video about the OOPS concepts, how it is applicable in Python. In the previous video, we have seen the theoretical aspects of the OOPS concept, what is class, object, and how method can be defined, so how it can be accessed with an example we have seen. We'll dive into the programming and get our hands dirty. As we all know, what the class means, what object means, and what the method means. Okay, so let's go with an example. So how it works with. Okay, so I'm going to define. Say for this explanation, I have taken a sample example about the field of automobile. Let's have in specific example as the car manufacturing or anything or car details. All right. So I'm going to define a method of name specification, because what we say, whenever you are going and looking for a car to purchase, and automatically we'll go for the specification and what are the in and outs that we have. Okay, so I'm defining that specification. The name of the method is specification, and I'm mentioning it as self. This is very important. I'll tell you what is mean by self and what is the importance of self and why do we mention it here. Fine. So next I'm going to print, once this method has been called, I'm going to print the necessary information about the cars. Particularly what normally we see, we look for the cc of the engine, so engine capacity, so it is 3000 cc for example. Yeah, then we look for the performance of the power of the engine, so say it is a V6, sorry, in quotes V6. Then the type of car, so what type does the car belong to, so let's say it's saloon type. So this is the function which I've defined now. Okay, so for this defined function, I'm a defined method, I'm going to call an object. I'm going to create an object. So how that object can be created, so name of the object, what I'm mentioning here is let's mention we are talking about the car, so let's mention the object name as the car itself. The car. So this is the object name. So how that object name can be created, so before creating object we have defined a function, the method I've defined, and for this method I've created the car. Okay, yeah, and with this this is not enough. So before we dive creating the methods, we need a class. A class is very, very important. So class is similar to the manufacturers, and the methods is about the types of cars or design of the car, how you want your car to be. Such a way, with these methods you can define the attributes and the behavior of that object. Accordingly, we can create that object which we mean here is the car. Say like a Swift Desire or a Honda Civic or anything. Honda is a manufacturer. Okay, and they will design a specific definitions for that car, and name of the car is Civic. That is what we call as an object here. So let's go to the class, how the class can be created. Class, and the class name should also be mentioned. So say it is vehicle. Yeah, fine. So I've created. Yes, so with this what I'm doing is, so this is the object, the car is the object. I'm going to assign this as a vehicle of the class. That is very important. Okay, yeah, let's compile it now. Yeah, sorry, I'm wrong with the intent. Let's go with fine. Yes, look here. So the object is created, the class created, and the methods, everything is created. So now I'm going to print for a verification, what is this car means, what is the type does it belong to. So I'm just going to type what is the type of this object car. Okay, so let's see, let's run this now. Look here, so this is it. So it defines, it is a class, and name of that class is the main. By default, that is a main is a module here. Okay, and to which class does this car object belong to? That is mentioned here. That is the class name, the vehicle. Okay, so for your example, for a clear understanding, because previously we have been talking about the type. Say for example, I am assigning a variable. Okay, so am I defining the data type here? Of course it is not, because probably everyone knows that the data type of the variable is completely depends upon the data which we assign here. Okay, say for example, I have assigned value 10 to A. So I'm going to see the type of that A. So let's see what is that type. Look here. So here it refers the class, okay, and that belongs to the name of that class is int. So that is what it is being defined here. So which is very clear here. What is very clear here is this A is an object. So what I'm coming to explain here is everything will be considered in Python as an object. So though we call A as a variable, but it is an object of the class integer. And luckily, likewise, this car is an object of the type of the class vehicle. So everything will be considered as an object here. So the object creation is very clear now. Fine. So let's go. So how to print this object with the help of this object created. So how we can print the details. Let's go with that. So this is unnecessary now. Okay, fine. So how to use this object. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just calling the spec here. Simply by calling spec, and with that spec car, or I've defined the spec here, vehicle dot spec, because what is the method name and to which class does that method belong to, that is very important. This is how you can call, because I want this information to be printed on screen. Okay, that is my motto. So let's see how it works. Fine. It is mentioning an error. Yes, of course it will be, because the spec it requires an argument self, because I have mentioned a self here. Okay, fine. So what is that self means? Which means the object which I have created for that method spec, which belong to the class vehicle, that has to be passed as an argument here. So the object which I have created here is car. So car is the object for the method spec which belong to the class vehicle. So that is the meaning here. So let's run this now. Let me save this first and then we'll run again. Yes, can you understand now? Yeah. So with the object car which I have created for the method spec in the class vehicle, yeah, I am printing this information. So now the object creation is very clear. So this is how we are supposed to create object. Okay, and we have another way of using this object, because this is a typical way. For your understanding, I have made it very clear, but you normally in every programming languages we used to have the another way of using these objects. So what is that object? We directly call that object. Okay, what is the name of that object and to which to which method it belongs to. Okay, so that will also work here for me. Run. So can you see that? I have got the two outputs. This way of calling an object is also possible. This is the regular way in every programming languages we used to call your objects with the method names. So here, what is the meaning of self? That explains very clearly here. So with the method spec, with the self condition, yeah, what is that self means? This car object itself, it passes to the method spec and gets my detail printed. So this is the meaning of spec. Why we need to mention that self, which is very important. So this is how you can create an object, and the same object can be used. And this is what we call, normally we call this is as a constructor. In any programming languages, in a default or object oriented programming languages, we call this as a constructor. I am creating an object to which class that class will be assigned. So this is what we call as a constructors. Alright, and likewise we can have n number of objects can be created. Say like I would like to create the another car, car 1 equal to vehicle. I'm creating it. Okay, fine. And again I call the same. Let's see. So the car 1, control this and run. Yes, I will have the 3 times the same functional. So likely for this defined method, I have 2 objects car and car1. So likewise I can specify a different function or different method for the object the car1. So likewise we can have n number of objects for a method, and before that hierarchy has to be followed. A class has to be created first, then the method should be defined, then the object should be created. The object, how that object can be created, that object has to be assigned to the class vehicle or the class name what you do normally. So this is how we see that. Fine, we'll continue with the next video.